former President Donald Trump is seeking to overturn his recent criminal conviction in Manhattan, New York, citing the new Supreme Court ruling that granted him broad immunity from prosecution for official actions taken while in office. Trump's lawyers filed a letter with a judge overseeing the case, seeking permission to file a motion to set aside the verdict. The move comes just hours after the Supreme Court issued its landmark ruling in a separate case involving Trump. The Supreme Court on Monday rejected Donald Trump's sweeping claim of absolute immunity from criminal prosecution in his federal election subversion case, but said former presidents are entitled to some protections for official acts taken while in the White House. The ruling, in which all of the liberal justices dissented, added, "The president is not above the law, but under our system of separated powers, the president may not be prosecuted for exercising his core constitutional powers, and he is entitled to at least presumptive immunity from prosecution for his official acts." The Manhattan case centers on acts Trump took as a candidate, not as president, but his lawyers are likely to argue that prosecutors built their case partly on evidence from his time in the White House. The Supreme Court's new ruling could potentially impact the conviction as it grants presidents broad immunity from prosecution for official acts. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden has spoken out against the Supreme Court's ruling, saying it undermines the rule of law and that no one is above the law, not even the President of the United States.
Now, over 200 years later, today's Supreme Court decision, once again, it will depend on the character of the men and women who hold that presidency that are going to define the limits of the power of the presidency, because the law will no longer do it. I know I will respect the limits of the presidential powers I have for 3.5 years, but any president, including Donald Trump, will now be free to ignore the law. I concur with Justice Sotomayor's dissent today. Here's what she said. She said, "In every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law. With fear for our democracy, I dissent." End of quote. So should the American people dissent. I dissent.
Biden seemed relaxed and confident, striking a clear and crisp tone and looking tanned and rested, all of which was in stark contrast to his often halting performance during last week's debate, when his face was notably pale. Biden's campaign has sought to shift the focus away from his uneven debate performance last week, which has sparked concerns among donors and Democratic anxiety. The SCOTUS ruling now essentially gives Trump or any former president free hand to avoid a post office trial.